the non-QR code side. We ready? All right, we've got Mars. I'm super happy with that for my ledge for the game found. I think I did Mars, Untamed, and Star Alliance. And that's a weird combo. I know most people are going Geistoid because of what I just said, it being the enablers. But I want to do something different than what everyone else is doing for their name decks. So I went away from Geistoid. Untamed, I think, is crazy. And Star Alliance, I think, can have some really cool enablers too. But it's probably going to be more of a hit or miss house. Second one I can already see is purple. So we've got another Unfathomable there. That's fine. So far, two of the same houses for my first deck. And last one is going to be Brobnar. Captain W. Aegis Dial. Aegis Dial. He's like a protective alligator. Or crocodile? Protective crocodile, who's a captain. I'll take that. That's fun. Okay, so two of the same houses, and then Brobnar is the third. Brobnar, I think, has some super fun stuff in this set, too. They are much needed creature control in this set. I think there are some action cards that do some really good creature control in a couple of other houses. Again, Geistoid has some of that, so they're going to be, again, pretty good utility house. But Brobnar has some crazy stuff. I can't remember the name of the card, but it's like a... What is it? Ready and Enrage a creature and each of its neighbors. And it's just like... It's kind of a new... what is it? Relentless Assault, but it can work defensively too. Like they can just enrage 3 of your creatures on your board. But if you just have a bunch of Brobnar in hand and drop that with it, like, oh man, it's so good. Okay, let's get this open. I don't know if anyone's talked about it either, but well, maybe it was on somebody opened maybe it was y'all yesterday, Lord Judo. You opened the Menagerie decks and just were saying the card quality feels better. I think someone was talking about that, and I agree. I think this one, that might have been for me, but I think in general the consensus is, especially the Menagerie decks, the card quality seems to be going up, so that's really fun. Okay, so we've got our Archon card over here. We've got our reference card. If y'all haven't seen yet, basically in this set there's no 38th card anymore. The 38th card is just a reference card on both sides, which I think is fine. I think some people said they could have done like a what is it? Just like a haunted signifier or whatever, but I mean, you're picking up your discard so much anyways that having something extra in there, especially if it has the same card back as the rest of your deck, would be kind of annoying. Okay, so there's one house. Something in the water. It's possible that Minnesota water. You never know. Okay, I can never remember if the rares are on top or on bottom, but I really like the rares to be last because those are usually what give the house a lot more of their flavor, and the commons are kind of just like, is your house good or not? I think they're on the top, or the commons are on the top. So I think I'm gonna flip them this way, and then if I'm wrong on this house, we'll switch it back over. But I don't know. The thing with the Menagerie is they almost feel like different, and maybe I'm just getting tricked by like the art, the back art on the back being different, but they almost just feel like a higher quality card stock than what we got in WoW. But I don't know. I'm excited for things to be looking better from what we're seeing at the moment, but we'll see. Let's get into this. Okay. Oh, so there you go. Rares are on back. But we have one of the curses. This is the Unfathomable Curse of Confusion. So treachery, it enters play under your opponent's control. And at the end of your turn, exhaust each friendly creature of the active house. This is just a crazy card. Like these curses, if you got to play against the Menagerie curse pod, playing against 5 to 7 of these is insanely hard to beat, but even just 1 or 2 of them in these decks give you so much, I think, needed creature control that I think the set can struggle with otherwise, which is why rare is good, because these cards are artifacts. They're really hard to remove for your opponent, but they are so strong. Like, I think this thing is going to be like fantastic, especially, and this is why like Unfathomable might be good if you can get like a lot of exhausting. That's always been a problem for them, is they try to do this exhausting mechanic but just don't have enough uh enough synergy with it. And I think, what is it, Call of the Void is back, so if I get like some Call of the Voids with this, that would be great. But I mean, just like, yeah, play your Logos turn where you drop 7 creatures on your library card turn. They're all now exhausted. I have an entire turn to just not worry about them and do whatever I need to, because it's so strong. Okay, so that's a rare. Let's get back to the commons. I'll flip them from the bottom now, but I'm already excited about that. We've got Wycolia. This is a reprint from DT. After reap, keys cost +2 during opponent's next turn. So I will say about Unfathomable, from what I've seen, they are very much an Amber control house in this set. It's a lot of on creature effects, so they kind of need to stay on the board, which is a little bit tricky, but this curse will help them stay alive longer, hopefully. But they do have a lot of the taxing and kind of stronger capture from what I've seen. You've got Squall Master. So this is one of the best arts. I love this art so much. This is one of the ones that's on the playmat you could get, I think. This is by Jasada. Oh gosh, I shouldn't even try to say that name. Jasada Suthi. If I butchered that name, I'm really sorry, but it's an awesome art. It's kind of the darker theme we're getting in this set, of just a little bit more like realism, a little bit like darker colors and stuff. But this guy is after fight, after reap, each player discards a random card from their hand, and then scrap, exhaust an enemy creature. Scrap effect is fine. If I think Unfathomable is one of those houses that you're probably going to be discarding with pips more often. The discarding a random card from hand is kind of weird that it hits both players, but some disruption is never bad, especially on a fight or reap. That's good utility. 3 power isn't crazy, but you know, there you go. There's 2 of them. So again, if you get some of those Brobnar effects that discard your whole hand, you're also doing some exhausting. So I don't mind seeing more scrap effects. I'm not sure how I'm going to organize this. Let's just go like that. Okay, so we've got our first discard pip. I love discard pips. I think they are a fantastic mechanic, and they're going to be very, very fun, but also make your decks almost feel like they have their own sideboard, because you can discard, kind of selectively discard different houses each game and make it so you're almost playing 2 different of your 3 houses every game you play. All right, Kokiri Germinator. Play after reap, put a card from a player's discard pile on the bottom of their deck. So this to me is a very, like, it's teched against other Grim Reminders decks. So many Grim Reminders decks are going to try to get stuff into their discard so that they can then bring them back with some of those archive effects or whatever. This gives you a chance to actually like snipe some of those cards, put them on the bottom of their deck so that they're having to kind of keep getting through to find those. Also, if you're up against, you know, things like Exhume or whatever, it's just a great utility card. The fact that it's on play, 5 power body, nothing wrong with that. All right, we've got 2 of those. So we're seeing a lot of just common creatures here in the Unfathomable. I'd love to see a little bit more actions and some pips, but you know, we'll just see what we keep getting. All right, and then we've got Immersioneer, another 5 power body, so big bodies. Start with, we've got after reap, discard the top 3 cards of any player's deck, and scrap, shuffle the bottom 3 cards of your discard into your deck. So I have this guy in my other deck that I played during the sealed. He's really, oh, the purple. So the purple theme in this entire set is really interesting. I was talking about that with Geistoid also having like purple too. Just everything is purple. So it's not easy to see. And even just distinguishing between those 2 houses when you're like flipping through your hand fast, there's going to be some mistakes. But I'm not a graphic artist, as is clearly evident in all of the content I produce. So I can't fault them for that. But yeah, there's a lot of purple. This guy's really interesting. So the scrap effect, I think, is much better than his reap effect, and it's shuffle the bottom 3 cards of your discard. So if you have this in your deck at all, and you have like discard pips, you're planning on discarding some stuff, you have to think about what you're doing turn 1, because whatever you do turn 1 is most likely what he is going to be shuffling back into your deck. So if you have a way of like even doing a full hand discard from your turn 1 and ordering those the way you want, and then you can scrap this guy later in the game, you can really get some of those power pieces back in there. Okay, let's see. course, with lesser known streamers like me, you always get the ads, but we'll just keep going. Okay, so we've got 5 more unfathomable cards. Let's keep going. All right, we've got a Covetous Hema with a capture pip. So again, reprint from Winds of Exchange. Never bad to see some Amber Control. Oh, this camera. So I also got a new camera, which I'm really happy about because it's a lot nicer. It's a lot easier to kind of move around. It's not my phone, so that helps a lot. But it keeps doing this thing where it's freezing like that, and it's kind of driving me nuts because I'm trying to record stuff for the series I'm doing, and it just keeps freezing, and I'm trying to find ways to stop it from happening, and I tried lowering the FPS and everything, and it's just not working. So if anyone has thoughts on how to make this camera work better, I'd love to hear those. Anyways, a little bit more Amber Control, not a bad thing, but again, very, very creature heavy. And we're going to continue that theme. More creatures. So a second Covetous Hema. It's a fine card, but we're not gaining any Amber so far in this house. We've got one Amber, and it is Call of the Void. So that, again, goes really well with the Curse of Confusion, because really, if you get this on your opponent early, they're going to have... that you have exhausted creatures basically every turn. You think it's an autofocus issue that's happening? Yeah, I do need to switch to just raw OBS from Streamlabs too, but I'm very used to doing the recording part on Streamlabs, so I just haven't made the switch yet, but I am planning to do that at some point. That will hopefully help, but I don't know, just kind of one of those things. We've got Beam of Forgetting, so Amber Pip on this one, and this also has enhanced for a capture and a discard, which we've already seen both of, so see if we have more pips or not. Play, reveal a random card from your opponent's hand and put that card on the bottom of their deck. So some of that disruption, kind of random discarding, but instead of discarding, it's going on the bottom of the deck. Again, that theme of being able to, instead of putting things in discard, but putting them on the bottom of the deck is just very tech against this set specifically, because you want to keep them from being able to recur stuff from their discard, because there's a lot of that in this set. Not bad. Let's see. Literally everything we've opened so far, aside from this curse, has been a common card. So this is just the least uncommon house of Unfathomable, but, you know, fine. Commons are supposed to be strong. We've got finally another Dark Tidings reprint in Wrath or Ruin. Choose one, destroy a flank creature, or return 2 creatures to their owner's hands. I would love if this had an Amber Pip, but it's still a very, very good utility card, especially the Or Statement. Like, not bad to see it at all. Overall, it's a little bit of an underwhelming house. I will, if I have more discard pips, hopefully be discarding some of this. I love the Curse of Confusion. That's probably going to be my turn 1 mulligan pretty often, because that just gives me so much time to even get these creatures on the board. But in general, this is kind of a slower house from what I would like to be seeing, but still cool. Again, cool art. I think these guys are not bad, but this needs to stick against board control and against like Winds of Exchange or something that's doing stuff really quickly. Might be tough, but we'll see. Let's see. So hoping for more discard pips, and also hoping for some of the Brobnar cards that are just discarding like your half your hand or your entire hand. But we'll see what we got on the second house here. Okay, so we're going into Brobnar, and we got a fantastic reprint in Shockherder. So Ready and Fight is just, it's really the main thing that Worlds Collide Brobnar was always missing, is good Ready and Fight. And I think in this set there's maybe more of it than needed, but Shockherder is great. The deploy is great, so you can get even some of those bigger unfathomable creatures just fighting from wherever they are on the board. We've got Mournful Barnburner. So there's a really interesting theme I've seen in the Brobnar in this set, with a lot of these sort of like power weapons or like glowing weapons or whatever they are. It's just kind of in a lot of the art this set that I've noticed for the Brobnar specifically. I don't know if that's kind of tied to something, or if they just wanted it to look, I don't know if it has to do with sort of like these weapons or whatever. But this guy has 6 power. After fight, discard the top 2 cards of a player's deck and then scrap. Each player discards the top card of their deck. So just more kind of on theme stuff for commons in the set, of this sort of like random discarding, putting stuff in a discard. A lot of times these discarding, depending on what other cards you have in your deck. It might actually be better to discard your own top of deck, but you know, there's utility there. All right, we've got a key cheat that is super awesome to have back. Oh, I pulled from the back again. There you go. We're just gonna spoil one rare from each house before we look at the rest of it. But Might Makes Right is awesome. Love to see that in here. Again, we don't necessarily have like logo sufficiency to set this up, so we'll see how good it is. But even with the Unfathomable, we saw tons of 5-power creatures, and if we're able to be exhausting my opponent's board every turn, this could actually be a very viable key cheat in this deck. So we'll keep that over there and see what else we get to go with it. But I love that as a reprint in this set. The key cheats in this set are going to be awesome. It's going to change how the game is played so much. All right, and this is one of the crazy commons we've seen spoiled. Memorialize the Fallen. Each player loses amber equal to the number of creatures in their discard pile. Like the value you can get from this is insane. There's no chains. If you have good ways to kind of reshuffle your own deck and stuff, like you can do some real damage to some really big burst decks. So love to see some strong amber control there. The scary thing is my Unfathomable is so many creatures, so this is probably hurting me a lot too. Need to save it for after I forge a key, but not sad to see that at all. Still very light on pips though. I would love to see a little bit more just raw amber. Or just actions in general, but you know, we'll see. We've got Heavyweight Morik. This is just basically a strictly better version of some other cards we've seen. 8 power, splash attack 2, scrap, deal 2 to a friendly creature and 2 to an enemy creature. Scrap effect isn't great, but again, if you're kind of trying to focus on different houses, it's not a problem to do a little bit of creature control with that as well. And he's just huge again for Might Makes Right. Great to have those big bodies. All right, Cacophonous Riot. Play Ready and Enrage a creature and each of its neighbors. So this is the one I was talking about. This one definitely messed me up when I was playing at KFC. Amber Pip on it. Like, if you've got like Heavyweight and Shock Herder, you can fight with him twice in a turn. Yeah, just very, very solid, good card. And you can use it defensively. If my opponent has creatures that are not exhausted from the curse, I can then enrage them all to fight into my big line of dudes, because I'm going to have big dudes. So not sad to see that one at all. Last one is a Brick Nasty with Cacophonous Riot. I'm liking this already. Brobnar, I think, is going to be just very solid in this set again. It doesn't have the token support for something like Brick Nasty, which means Brick Nasty is probably just a little bit more balanced in this set. Got a discard pip on him as well, so that's just one of the good, like, nothing wrong with that. Love seeing it. Blunderbore. This was one of the very early spoilers they did. 6 power Brobnar creature. After fight, if you are haunted, your opponent loses 2. Otherwise, your opponent loses 1. So that with Cacophonous Riot is also going to give us some good amber control. But again, a 6 power body to go with that Might Makes Right. So I'm liking the Brobnar so far. Berserker Slam, always been a fantastic common. Just good value there. We're again just really hitting those commons in this house. All of these, aside from the Might Makes Right, is commons. So I like these commons probably more than I do of the Unfathomable ones, but it's just kind of interesting. Sound the Horns. All right, so we've finally got some ways to kind of dig through our deck, maybe discard some of those other Unfathomable creatures we're not really wanting at the time. I'm pretty torn on the way that scrap works right now. I understand that it would be sort of a rules nightmare if scrap effects would fire off of something like this. I also think it would be really fun if scrap effects fired off of something like this, because I mean, you can see I've pulled maybe like 4 or 5 scrap effects total, and none of them are doing anything that crazy. So being able to pull those as you're doing one of these would be really fun. But very, very good card with Might Makes Right again, just being able to grab one more Brobnar creature to try and fire that key cheat. Love it. Lifting Buddy, again, this is a card I'm kind of torn on. It's not fantastic because it just gives power counters, but with Might Makes Right, this is now a 7, like this is essentially 9 power coming down to make Might Makes Right work. So I don't really have a way to archive Might Makes Right, so I'm not sure how good it's going to be, but there are at least good synergy with it. Last, we've got Concussive Transfer. Play deal 3 to a creature and then redistribute all damage on creatures among all creatures. So this is a really interesting one. It's kind of one of those like cards that gets around a lot of other rules, even things like wards. This can get around that. It's sort of like what was that one a while ago? There's a Mars card that did something similar. This deck is doing fighting, it's doing like splash attack, it's got scrap abilities that are doing damage, so there's nothing wrong with this. Berserker Slam before or after this also can do some stuff, so it's fine. I would have loved to see another Amber Pip on that, but this is a cool Brobnar, and I think this Might Makes Right probably has a good chance of firing if I can get some kind of... I don't know if Mars really has too much recursion outside of other Mars creatures, so we'll see. But it's fun to have it nonetheless. I think I only have like maybe 1 or 2 Might Makes Right cards total. One of them is in a Vault Master deck that is just awful. I've been trying to make it work and it's just not happening. So pretty cool. I'd love to see some Amber control in the Brobnar too, with both the Blunderbore and Memorialize. I think Memorialize is just, it's going to be such a bomb card on turns after you've forged, kind of like Bait and Switch used to be. It's just going to be very punishing. All right, so finally we've got the Mars. This is the house. I finally am going to get a Mars on my name deck. I didn't get that in WoW, but this is the house I'm most excited for this set, not just because it's my kind of channel theme, but they just have some crazy stuff they can do. Let's get into it. First one, we've got Terrible Teammates with an Amber Pip, an enhance of a draw and a discard. You may discard a non-Mars card, so already some ways to kind of get some of those scrap effects firing. It's fine. You run low with cards like this. You run low on cards that are actually interacting with your opponent's deck, so for that reason, it's not my favorite, but it is sort of this weird source of efficiency where this is kind of almost like an efficiency of 3. So, ooh, I love that. Scoop Up with a draw pip on it. One of my, like, I love this card from Winds of Exchange. I think it has a little bit more synergy in Winds of Exchange with tokens, where you can kind of pick up tokens that you want that are cards, other cards that you want to get back. But I love Scoop Up regardless. It's a fantastic creature control card. Gives you some archives if you have some of those Mars creatures that want you to have archives, so not a problem there. Distant Void Prober. 4 power after Reap. If you are haunted, your opponent's keys cost +3 during their turn. So another taxing creature. This one has to be on the board, and Reap, which is just, it's hard to do these days. Creature survivability, especially like there's no taunt. There's not much like warding or anything. I don't know if warding is even in the set, so it's just kind of like, how do you keep these guys alive? But you know, if he stays alive, good creature or Amber control. And then Scrap Effect is an enemy creature captures 1 from its own side, so kind of like a Mind Warper ability on a Scrap Effect. Totally fine. We don't have too many discard abilities from the other houses, so see how much that goes off, but don't mind it. Brash Grabber. Have this guy in my deck too, and I think I forgot to half of his tech, like half of his text when I played him. But if you are not haunted, Brash Grabber enters play enraged. I don't know why he needed that, except he has this Omni, but the Omni makes it really awkward if he's enraged, because you can still Omni even if he's enraged if you're not calling Mars as a turn. So it's kind of a weird the way that they wrote this card. But Omni, move 1 from an enemy creature to your pool. So he's kind of, I wish this was just any creature, moving an Amber from any creature back to your pool, because he's not going to survive most of the time anyways. He has the possibility of coming in enraged, but still being able to get Amber back that your opponent has captured if it's on like a big dude or a warded dude or whatever. Not a bad ability at all. Mass Abduction. I don't know if I knew this was reprinted in this set. Okay, so put up to 3 damaged enemy creatures into your archive. If any of those creatures leave your archive, they are put into their owner's hand instead. So kind of along with Scoop Up, we've got a lot of cool creature control. This combos with the Mars card, or the Brobnar card we saw, that kind of redistributes damage. So if you know this is coming, you could deal that 3 damage and then redistribute it on 3 different creatures, and then next turn mass abduction them to kind of just take them off the board. A little bit slow, but I don't mind seeing some non-destroy effect creature removal, because that's going to be a big deal in this set, I think. the destroyed effects that you can see, especially from some of the Geistoid artifacts, are just crazy. So being able to just pick them up instead, I think, is actually very strong. Last one is, oh my gosh, I keep taking from the bottom. I'm so bad at deck opening, guys. I'm sorry. We've already spoiled our 2 rares now. Revo Hooligans, though, is some good artifact control from Wind of Exchange. Has the ability to paint artifacts to be Mars, basically changing their house. And that stays basically forever, as far as I'm aware. Until the artifact is destroyed, it is considered House Mars. So don't mind seeing that. At this point, I would like to see a lot of ready and used because we have very little of that so far. Okay, Abduct-O-Matic. We've got 4/2 after fight. If you are haunted, capture 2 amber. Scrap, the least powerful friendly creature captures 2. Honestly, because the other ability is an after fight, this guy is probably better most of the time as a scrap effect. Again, I wish I had some better ways to discard cards in my other houses so that I could make use of some of these scrap effects without having to call Mars and then discard a Mars card, but not a bad body either. 4/2 is a little bit of survivability for the Might Makes Right, so. All right, War of the Worlds. All right, this is a good one. It's more creature control here. So destroy all non-Mars creatures and deal 2 damage to each Mars creature. Okay, and that actually does combo with Mass Abduction now, because if my opponent has a bunch of Mars creatures, I can do this to destroy everything else that's not Mars, and then all of their Mars creatures take damage, and this does not have the non-Mars clause. So those two can at least work together to get rid of some scary Mars stuff too. But I think War of the Worlds is an awesome card. Like, fantastic, deals with a lot of those old Coda scary Mars creatures and stuff, so not bad. Nameless Horror. This one's just hilarious to me. I don't think it's amazing. Like, it's a little bit scary, but just the art and stuff is hilarious. So 2 power, poison, and then while you are haunted, Nameless Horror gains elusive and skirmish. So just becomes kind of a 2 power killing machine if you can get it to stick. But, you know, nothing too crazy there. All right, we've got 2 Nameless Horrors. Actually, not too, combos with a Shock Herder, but does not combo with the other card because you can't fight with them on the same turn. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, a little bit of house cheating here. We've got Loyalty Implants. This is an artifact. Omni, destroy Loyalty Implants. You may use friendly Mars creatures this turn. So basically the same as that Sanctum artifact, except this does not have an Amber Pip on it. Not sure why that is. But if you're kind of doing some of this stuff where you're blowing up everything on the board that isn't Mars, you can then go into hopefully a different house your next turn and still use the Mars stuff you played that turn. So not bad, but takes a little bit of setup. Last, we've got Sniffer, one of those cards that no one understands why it's back in the set. But there have to be some bad cards, right? So as an Amber Pip and then action for the remainder of the turn, each creature loses elusive. So really not too bad with the Nameless Horrors if you need to get some of those sneakier creatures off the board. These guys have skirmish. You can remove, move the elusive from them. Doesn't work with house sheet turn, which is unfortunate. I wish this was Omni, because then it would work a lot with our Brobnar creatures, but there you go. It's a interesting deck. Again, I don't see this as being like crazy powerful or anything. This feels kind of like an average Keyforge deck. I don't know if I'll be able to get the whole thing on the screen here. But definitely some cool stuff. The Brobnar is what I'm most excited about. I think that Brobnar is going to do some really cool stuff. Hopefully can kind of build and keep a board presence with some of these one-sided effects, especially that Curse is going to be really, really strong for keeping some of these creatures on the board, because I kind of have to have the creatures survive for this deck to win, because I don't have any. I guess I do have the one. Okay, there's some good synergies in here because I have a lot of capture, especially in Unfathomable. And then with the Memorialize the Fallen, hopefully I can just sort of capture a lot, and then when my opponent finally gets it back, I can just blow it all up. And if I can time that well to where I don't have many creatures in my discard, that'd be great. This deck is not really doing a whole lot of self-milling, so that might also be possible. But yeah, cool stuff. I think the Might Makes Right and the Curse of Confusion are sort of the coolest things going on here. I'm going to run into my own doing this one, but there you go. What's up, Stormstrong? You just missed it, but I've got it all out here. It's an interesting deck. I think honestly, I don't think this would be too bad in sealed. Maybe I should have opened this one that night. Everything is going of diagonal there, but nothing too crazy as far as like, you know, really kind of being aggressive in a game and stuff. There's a lot of creature control though, especially in these two houses. So against Wind of Exchange stuff and everything, shouldn't be too bad. I think it's going to get outraced a decent amount of the time unless I can really set up a good Brobnar Brick Nasty turn, but I don't really have many sources of efficiency. We've got 1 draw pip and 2 discard pips, so I don't know. We'll have to see. I'll bring it to locals next week and give it a run. Yeah, fun stuff. I'm still so excited for this set. But again, like this is why I would say like I think the average decks of Grim Reminders are not going to feel like as broken as the average like Winds of Exchange sets, or maybe even as like Mass Mutation. Like this doesn't seem like it might do fine against like an average Mass Mutation, but especially if you've got like Disruption and Efficiency in that Mass Mutation deck, I don't think this would do crazy good against that. So but again, I think for sealed it'd be really fun, and I think this is going to be there's two discard pips. Sorry, they're really hard to see because they're purple and half of the deck is purple. We've got 1 on the Nariki Germinator and then 1 on the Brick Nasty here. So it's something, and there are a couple of scrap effects. There's actually a decent amount of scrap effects, some of which I might want to play more often than not. The Might Makes Right, I think, is also a really cool part of this, especially with the Sound the Horns and then just some big bodies. And then the Lifting Buddy is really good with that too. I do have to be careful of Sound the Horns and then Memorialize the Fallen, because I might just dump a bunch of creatures into my own discard and then blow up my own Amber. But Might Makes Right, if I can forge without having to use the Amber, that's great too. So I think I really just need to see, like, it's just going to be a deck that's very, very tacked against creatures because it has a lot of ways of kind of slowing down creature decks. But anything that's got a lot of like Amber pips and stealing, it's going to struggle against, but that's fine. It still looks fun. I will enjoy it for sure. So there you go. That is Captain W Aegis Dial, the Captain Crocodile, as I'll call him from now on. Stuff. Let me put that up here quick. I don't know. Camera should autofocus a little bit. There you go. So just a few enhancements. Nothing as far as legacies or anything. Just kind of your average Keyforge deck, but that's what we love about Keyforge, right?